So Montag Manufacturing essentially came out of an idea that my father had for banding dry fertilizer, and really in response to a need in the industry for precision placement. Back in the early days of agriculture, we would have placed that usually with a planter, and fertilizer was expensive, and we placed it and did a really good job. Then it became less of a concern. It was more of a cheap thing that we could just get out there and get done. And we've seen a lot of broadcast fertilizer come in and take that need. Now fertilizer definitely has an expense. And we also notice and find that we have a lot more of an environmental impact with it. So the precision placement of fertilizer and having a product that can be adapted to multiple different platforms. As you walk around the show, you'll see us on lots of different pieces of equipment, but then in the industry you'll find us behind planters and strip till bars, no-till equipment, even some heavy tillage equipment, high-speed applicators for side dressing. So kind of a really broad spectrum in which the equipment's placed. And then we're not tied directly in with just one tillage piece. We work with a lot of different manufacturers to supply that solution. For us, education is the key to making good decisions. We feel that if we can educate the grower and educate our end consumer or dealer on our products, on our services, and on what they do and what advantages they have, that's ultimately the best way to make a sale. It isn't so much about just selling iron for us, but about selling concept and practice. We believe our iron will stand for itself from both our design engineering standpoint and its working usability in the market. But ultimately, the biggest argument often is, what does it take to do a good job? What are the outcomes of it? What are the risks that we're trying to balance out? When you look at broadcast fertilizer, especially in your P&K, a lot of it can be tied up in the top soil zone. It's not very mobile in the soil. And yet we're putting it out there with the response that we hope to see in that same growing season, or at least in the preceding growing season coming. Frankly, it's not going to be available oftentimes. We see it's going to take 2 to 3 years for it to move. So let's place that fertility where it can have the most effect. And that's really a long educational process. And cooperation with working with the farm equipment on the different strip till and no-till conferences and pieces like that, those are really at the forefront of leading education in the industry. So we're really honored and proud to be there. I see no-till and conservation tillage as becoming only growing in popularity. The need is there for them in the industry. We can see the heavy cost of erosion on our soils. I was driving into the show yesterday and drove by a couple of fields, and you could tell that they were past pasture fields that had just been taken and converted over to a full conventional tillage program. And you could see huge gullies and erosion issues out there. Yellowed corn where it had happened. We had soil loss there, and there's no real repair for that. We can kind of mask and make it go away, but ultimately, paying more attention to our soils, focusing on soil health, is going to drive us to a conservation or a no-till type practice more. We see that, I guess I see that growing in the industry, and even legislatively, you can see the pressure and the push to take more ground and move it into no-till and conservation, especially with an emphasis on focused on banding fertility and those types of things. That's no-till or strip till with broadcast fertility is a tough sell. But when you start looking at it and start adding in some banded fertility, now all of a sudden it starts to work a lot better, and the end grower can see a lot better results from it. We have really focused on really stepping up our product offering to meet the needs and requirements of today's farmer, but also tomorrow. Really focusing on full integration into a rate controller based system, being able to map and track that. You know, we're currently working now with full ISO rate controllers that plug and play on the system. Section control, being able to really focus that fertility, no longer just looking at it from a broad 40-foot bar, but now being able to focus that down to a 10-foot section on a bar. Configurable sections, we see the market really asking to be able to change things around and move things and adapt. So our new platform, especially with our Gen 2, now we can add and subtract rows, build configurations that make sense for the guys, and still be able to focus that fertility within that zone. So those are some key things I see coming in that market. You know, we've broken it down now to where we can do section control, but we also, within this new platform, have the full capability to be able to do to be variable rate within that section as well. And I think that's probably the next step. In addition to that, we're probably also going to see more pressure from cover crops. That's something that we're starting to focus on a great deal. I think we have some wonderful solutions. We're product casing here a Gen 2 Mini, which is more of a low-cost entry-level twin bin. Still full capability with the Gen 2, the larger platform, but then it can also be adapted and used for seed. So we can do some low-rate cover crops, making some nice solutions for guys to be able to get out there and do cover crops. USDA and a host of other people are wanting us to start focus on raising and growing more cover crops, especially on some difficult acres. And I think we're well suited to those markets now with some new product offerings that we have. So excited for the future.